Welcome, Drink with James, episode 169. I've exited my sickness mostly, which is good. It means I'm in a better mood. Like most men, I am a total nightmare when I'm sick and just curl up and ask to be spooned all day by my understanding and lovely girlfriend. But that part of my life is over, and we've entered into a new week. Look, we've got 3 months left in the decade, which is kind of crazy. And I was thinking, one, about, I think it's a good time to reflect on what the last decade has brought you. For a lot of you watching this, it has brought you like puberty and like into adulthood. But for us old folks, the decade didn't have quite as much physical change, other than a little bit of slackening of the whole body, but a lot of change in other ways. I hadn't started this business. I think I had a following. 10 years ago I had a blog and a shitty job that I hated. And now I don't have a blog and I love my job. So you too could trade your blog for a job that you really love in the next decade, if that is your goal. But no, I think as you kind of enter into any milestone, it's a good time to reflect. I just went through a process that I found really cathartic and helpful, which was, and it will sound like depressing, but I think it's a good thing to do. So I just went through and I tried to make a list of everything that I thought I was fucking up in my life, specifically as it's related to my work. All the things I was doing wrong, the things I was avoiding, the problems I'm causing it for. Tried to just make this big list, and then I tried to put all of those things into buckets of like what the root causes are. So if you think about any problem, right? You have the symptom and then you have the cause, right? A symptom is like, I am not good at networking, right? Like that's a symptom of some root cause and problem in your personality, potentially. So once I had all of the symptoms down, I then tried to work backwards and understand what the root causes were, and really came down to just 2 or 3 big things that I felt like my personality was holding me back from like unlocking that next gear, that like next level of success and the person I want to be and need to be for the company. And then I also made a list of like, what would happen if I didn't fix these things? Like if I follow the path and I ignore all of these problems, what would end up happening in the company? And let me tell you, it's not great. So I think for anyone, the biggest thing standing in the way of you being more successful generally is yourself. We are the biggest impediment to getting what we want. And I think that like that journey of some self-exploration and trying to understand why you do the things that you do. Why do you act the way you do? Why do you react to things the way you do? Why do you approach your work in the way you do? Can be incredibly helpful. And I think acknowledging the things that you feel like are wrong with you, that you want to change, sharing those with someone and like making them public and saying like, here is, in my case, probably like a 2-page single-spaced, essay on what is wrong with me, which is kind of like being like, these are the things that I am looking to change in myself. So I found it helpful. I think that as you kind of enter again into a new decade and a new year, it's a good time to look at those things and figure out, what you are going to do in the next 10 years. Because I have found, and again, this may be a personal thing, but I think one of the big surprises of my life is like just how hard it is to be successful. I think we've talked about this on other episodes, and I think that like if traditional financial success is something that you are after, I think it takes like a relentless focus on self-improvement and on trying to make yourself better. And a lot of people go to books and self-help books and things to try and come up with a new process. I'm going to work this way. I'm going to focus on these things. Those are like drugs, right? Like those people are just trying to sell you something, to say like, hey, you feel really insecure about your future. You don't know what the fuck to do. I did this. Like, use my blue sky method and you will achieve success. Or if you read, The Fucking Secret, you just think about it. Just be like, I want a Ferrari, and it will just happen. There are no silver bullets. There is no like cure. I think there's only the like struggle. And what I have been trying to do, and my realization recently, is that struggle is not to find a new process or to find a new framework in which to operate, but it is to understand what is wrong with me and try and fix that. So if you too are, a morose sack of shit like myself, you might enjoy this process. And feel free to drop me a note and I will, look, you share your flaws with me, I'll send you mine. How's that? That's a deal. Okay. Question 1, what do I think about the new Instagram features? First of all, there is some new stuff that just dropped on Instagram. I'm sure y'all have seen it. I don't know if you use Instagram that often, but there's new stuff on there. And then we get a bunch of stuff I hear that's coming down the pipeline. So first of all, let's talk about what's new. Threads. Downloaded Threads. It's essentially taking your DMs off of Instagram into its own app and then allowing you, it's very similar to Snapchat, right? You're just sending, it makes it very easy to send photos and DMs to specifically your close friends. This is part of Instagram and Facebook's drive towards more private messaging, more one-on-one messaging. This is something that Mark Zuckerberg came out and said maybe a year and a half ago was going to start to be a focus with them as they started to focus on privacy. So for me, Threads isn't that interesting. Young people use these social platforms in a very different way that we do, and I'm sure it is a attempt to steal some of that young business away from Snapchat. Another is removing the following tab, which for the stalkers out there is super depressing. I used to love to see my bro-y friends from high school and be like, bro-y friend 1 liked 8 photos, and it's just like 8 thirst traps, like not realizing that his wife could also see that tab. We also used to use that back in the early days before we built Follower Health. It was an easy way to see if someone was using a bot to engage, because you could see them engaging, and then you would go to the photos they engaged with, and it was like, a Russian with 14 followers and 2 photos. So that is gone. I imagine some of it was probably pressure from celebrities not wanting their activity to be public. But that is gone. Those are really the 2 big changes that have come out. Now there's a couple interesting things that have been rumored that I've seen screenshots of. Let's run through them really quick. 1, Instagram Stories is going to get gridded layouts, so you can do 2, 4, 6 photos in a single Instagram story. It's going to essentially try and replace Unfold. Sorry to the Unfold founders, but as we know, Facebook is going to try and destroy all of us, so a good reminder for us. They're ripping off TikTok. I told you guys a few months ago they had hired one of the lead designers at Vine. So they're rolling out something that is similar to TikTok. It's a camera, it's got some editing features to create short little videos. We'll see how that goes. seen screenshots for being able to share comments with friends. I think this is in response to some of the, again, to this idea of like people loving to share celebrities' comments and things and just start conversations around the engagement. So sharing comments. Saw a screenshot for desktop messaging. This is something they've said for years that they've been working on and is 100% in their pipeline. So desktop DMs seems to be coming in the not so distant future. That will be awesome. There's a stop motion camera for Insta Stories for creating easy stop motion movies. So if it's, if you're still in 2010 and you're into stop motion, that will be exciting for you. IGTV series, so you can create a series in IGTV, and I think all of the videos in that series will be nested inside of that. Our friend Jess Kirby does like weekly outfit videos on IGTV. She could name that series and it would all kind of live in one place. There is 2 new types of boomerangs. So there's one that's gonna pause at the end of the loop and one that's gonna like wiggle at the end of the loop. I don't know what that's gonna look like, but apparently that's coming down the line. Notification filters, so for all y'all who actually have a big following, not me, you're gonna be able to filter your notifications, I think, to maybe be able to see just people you follow or close friends, so you don't miss notifications that I know could get lost if you get tens of thousands of notifications. Lastly, they are testing out some new layouts for Explore. Haven't really seen screenshots for it yet, but Explore as it is, the way that content gets pulled into Explore has changed quite a bit in the last few years. I don't think the general layout or design of Explore has changed much other than including video and IGTV and now stories. So interested to see what they do with Explore. So that is new stuff that is coming down the pipeline on Instagram. As always, important to stay on top of this stuff. If you've seen our interview with Taylor Lorenz, who's now an internet culture writer at the New York Times, who also writes about influencers, she's a good Twitter follow. She's on top of all this shit and is a good person to kind of keep an eye on if you are wanting to know what's coming down the pipe. Question number 2 is, why are influencers all of a sudden launching technology companies? This on the back of Danielle Bernstein from We Wore What launching Mo, which is an assistant slash productivity tool for influencers. Jenny from Margot and Me is launching a social shopping app. Look, it makes sense. One of the great things about technology is there's no sizing. You don't have to worry about skin. It's not like a foundation where you worry about skin tone. You don't have to worry if someone's allergic to it. You can make money while you sleep. You don't have to ship it. There's no returns. Technology is a beautiful thing if you can get it right. And I applaud Jenny and Danielle for kind of going out and trying to do something different. Running a technology company, being 7 years into this, is certainly a difficult thing. And I was interested to talk to someone else who had run a technology company as an influencer, because while for me, what is interesting about this isn't, that they're launching these new apps. That's great and wish them the best of luck. What's interesting is that when Danielle launched swimwear, we talked about that, and that made total sense, right? She posts about swimwear a lot. She's had a good relationship with that brand. She designed something for herself, sold it. It did incredibly well. Awesome. I'm interested in people moving into technology because, while the tools they build are, helping or kind of made for influencers or made for social, it's not exactly a one-for-one in the same way that designing a capsule collection of clothing is. And so instead of me pontificating about why someone would do this, I wanted to talk to Teza, who has been running the Teza app for a little over a year now. She just hit 2 million downloads on that app. I thought it would be a good time to bring her in and ask her what it's like to run a technology company. So let's cut to her. You guys know I am always looking for an excuse to drag Teza into the office. Found another one. You just hit 2 million downloads on your app. Congratulations.
Thank
I
you.
wish we had, could we get like a studio, like applause on that? Like a studio
I would love that.
clap track? Thank you. So congratulations. A little over a year, 2 million downloads on the app.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. What we're talking about, as I mentioned, is influencers creating and launching digital products. You were one of the first that I remember that kind of had an app that has now become quite successful. Would love to hear a year in some of the things that you've learned in creating digital products.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, one, it was our first digital product, and we definitely didn't set out like I think some other people I know who, hire a team and really go through all of these things you need to do before you launch. We just kind of were like, this sounds fun.
You didn't raise money.
We didn't raise money.
You didn't hire a team.
We didn't hire a team.
Cole did the development.
And for like a year of building it, we almost gave up probably 100 times. It was really hard. We had no expertise in this specific area. So it was kind of shooting in the dark. And, I think the first thing we learned was, one, the coolest part about being an influencer and having an app is that you get immediate feedback, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like people are just going to tell you what they think, whether you like it or not.
Yep.
So in that case, I think we marketed in our heads building the app to a specific customer when we launched, and we quickly learned that was not our customer.
So who did you think it was?
So we were really going for like the premium people that already were using our presets, and really wanted to be able to also use the app and go do it on the go, not for like every single person, right? But people felt like I was literally pulling their wallet out of their pocket and taking money from them because I was like charging them for this app. And we actually did a whole price restructure, and we kind of like changed the whole goal of the app. Yeah. I think like probably 2 months in, we were already like reworking on the new plan. So
you felt like you felt like initially you got pricing wrong.
Pricing wrong and customer wrong.
And what was wrong about the pricing? It was too expensive?
Too expensive.
Yeah.
It's people don't understand that when you build an app, it was a full-time job for Cole. Every single night we'd stay up till 2 a.m. We also have another job. And
quite a few jobs, honestly.
Quite a few jobs. And people just expect like apps to be free. That's like the mentality of apps. So the second you charge, people are obviously going to care. But that's okay. Like I was prepared for that. I've done other products.
Right.
But I just think that was kind of like the quickest learning curve. But the second we really did just pay attention to what people were saying, we thought, okay, let's just involve them in this process. Mm-hmm. And so we were like open about it and our mistakes and everything.
How did you do that? Was it like going out and saying like, hey, I want feedback? Were you emailing customers? Was that happening mostly on your Instagram?
Mostly on Instagram. The hardest part about apps, you don't necessarily capture someone's email unless you're doing a login
mm-hmm.
and that whole thing. And even still, you have to be careful about how you're using those emails. So it's not like my email list where I'm just blasting, and can talk to people. So mostly over Instagram. Yeah. And truthfully, if it wasn't for like the App Store reviews, I would have never known how bad it was. Because in the reviews, people just went like, it was like a YouTube channel, where people just say I was like, literally, I never get like that much negative feedback. So I was like, oh my gosh, like what have we done? We're like, cancel the app, like it's over.
Pull it from the App Store.
Yeah, so we quickly just like changed everything, and we responded to every single review, and we're like, hey, thanks for your feedback. We've actually now changed this. Please let us know what you think. And quickly that really started to build our community because they felt like, she listened to what I was saying. And so they really became kind of our biggest users of the app in the beginning.
And I think that like something that is overlooked, and it's hard as an influencer, you already have this big audience. You feel like everything you put out has to be perfect, right? You're a perfectionist. I know. Yeah. I've seen your photos. I know how long you spend editing them. If you guys haven't heard a Drink with James episode, you should. A long time. Yeah. So to put something out into the world that wasn't perfect, did you, when you released it, were you like, this is God's gift to apps, or were you like, this is pretty pretty rough. Let's see how this goes.
I wouldn't say I felt like it was rough, but I definitely didn't, you know, we had so many plans where like the app will just constantly be like, we'll release updates with new features and all this stuff. So I knew it was always going to be growing and changing, but I didn't think it was as rough as it was.
Yeah.
And one thing I did not really understand about technology is that the amount of bugs that happen.
Yeah.
Like people would be like, I saved my photo 3 times, re-imported it, did this. I'm like, why would you even do that? And they're like, and it's crashing. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, like, you know, we're trying to figure out all these bugs.
I'll put a 200 megabyte TIFF file into it and it won't edit it.
Yeah.
What's going
I was
on?
just like, okay, like this is crazy. But I learned, you know, that was like why we were able to make it better quicker, I would say.
And looking back on it now, 2 million downloads later, over a year after it, if you could like go back in time, would you have waited 2 more months and polished it, or would you have launched it as is? Would you have launched it even earlier? Like, to everyone watching who's maybe thinking about an app idea or a business idea, you know, should they be trying to just get it out into the world as quick as possible, or?
I would say, like, if I did it again, I might, you know, find some people and have them kind of help do testing with me and not, you know, kind of involve people in the process that I know would be using it. I guess, like, really when we did it, we just thought, this is a cool idea, let's even see if we can do it. Mm-hmm. And once we did it, we were like, let's put it out there. But I would probably do more testing and kind of, like, talk to people, you know, see. I'm like now becoming more business minded, but I would say like I'm really good at creating stuff, and that's kind of my jam. I'm not like the best at the business side, or I'm getting better at it. But I think like, you know, you're gonna learn so much as you launch anyway. I think most apps, from what Cole says, Cole teaches me all the app stuff, guys. But like most things, you know, break when you know, that's just kind of the nature of tech. You have to just constantly be updating it. So I wouldn't say I would have done it sooner, yes, if I could have. But definitely now, like it's turning into, it evolved so much. It's been 1 year. It feels like it's been 5, you know?
And I think it's the fun part about technology is every week, every day you can make changes. And I think that like, you know, for those of you who are not as in this world, there's something called an MVP, which is a minimum viable product. The idea is to get something as bare bones enough to test the idea, to say, is this do people care about this idea before you invest $100,000 into building this very complex thing or 6 months of your life into it? The key is, I think what you learned and maybe what you would do differently is that like that MVP has to work. Yeah. So like scale it back. The design doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to have every feature you want, but getting bug testing, making sure it actually operates in the way it should will keep people from being too upset, and then just like asking you for more features, right? I hear that's when you know you have product market fit, is people are asking you for new features all the time, and I'm sure you get people constantly, they're like, can I get this, can I get this, I wish I had this, I love the app, but I wish it did this. So looking forward, again, you know, I feel like in the last month you have had skincare, you've had sunglasses, you've hit 1 million downloads on the app, then 2 million on the app. Like you have a lot going on. How do you see technology fitting into the kind of overall stack of what, you know, Teza Inc. Is putting out into the world?
Well, it's a good question. I think it's something like we're currently trying to figure out. Is it something that's completing our full circle in the long run, or is it like a separate thing? Because the app, you know, I always kind of thought it would be people I knew using the app, but now it's gone beyond me, and like it's actually bigger in Indonesia than the U.S. So I don't even know why. Love you.
Do you have a Big in Indonesia shirt yet? Okay.
I'm gonna get one. Yeah,
absolutely.
But I just think like overall, I would probably, for me, like the tech aspect is so exciting because the overhead is just so much easier than products. And if that's something like the future of that, I think there's so much potential. I think you can always combine fashion and tech. I think we're learning that so much. So many people are trying to do that. So I see like potential there for the future. But right now it's, you know, you can have so many ideas for one little thing, but you also don't want to over cram something that's working. So that's kind of like the balance we're trying to figure out.
And last question, I mean, I think technology is really intimidating for a lot of people that aren't technically savvy. I run a technology company. I can't write a single line of code.
Yeah.
So, there's this idea that if you don't understand technology, you can't run a technology company. Any kind of word of advice to non-technical people watching this who have an idea for an app or a website about kind of launching?
Yeah, I would just say find somebody and have a conversation. Because, like, for example, Cole, I know nothing about coding, right? But I'm always talking about like the functionality, the way things like move, and that's a huge part of tech, right?
Yeah.
Or the like even just visually, the ways like things are animated in an app. And I feel like, we're all creative minded. That's something we're all always thinking about. So I think there are so many people entering the tech space, young people like looking for jobs. It's one of the best things you can have for a career right now. But so, I would just find somebody that's also looking to team up and build a product, because it can get expensive to hire a developer.
It can, yes.
And so if you can actually just find someone that, you're teaming up with, that might be a better solution.
But I think it's a great way to kind of frame it is like if you looked at, the world's best designers,
Right.
I bet they couldn't make their designs.
Yeah.
Like they could never sit at a sewing machine
Right.
and actually make those probably.
Right.
You don't have to be the executor of your vision. To have
Totally.
vision, you don't have to understand technology to tell someone how you want your app to work.
Exactly. Such a good point.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks.
I'm sure we're all going to be working for you one day.
Oh, I'm going to be working for you.
And we will continue to ask you back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Okay, question number 3. Should brands play a role in keeping influencers relatable, real, and relevant? Short answer, yes and no. It is the brand's job to deliver a brief that gives the influencer the flexibility to inject their voice into that post, to tell their story and how that story intersects with the product, how their life has been improved by the product, how their skin has changed, how it makes them feel, whatever it is. The brand has to give them a brief that allows them to inject their personality and their point of view into it. That's why we follow them, right? Like we follow them because we respect and in some way crave their point of view. So it is 100% a brand's job to do that. A lot of the work that we do is helping our brands craft strategies that are going to be flexible enough to give the influencer the space to, spread their beautiful wings and fly around, but constrictive enough that they don't fly off the rails and talk about the product in a way that the brand doesn't want. The way I think about it a lot of times is like bumpers in a bowling alley, right? That lane is yours. You can do it with it what you want. But if you start to veer off into a place that doesn't make sense for the brand, we're just gonna pop you back into the middle and make sure you're protected. And for the influencer, it's great because it gives them the chance to be creative with constraints. And the brand, it's great because they're getting great content, but they're also getting the safety. They're getting the peace of mind that they're going to get the kind of content they want and it's going to be safe for their brand. So when a brand briefs influencers and sends them the captions and tells them exactly what they want them to post, tells them how they want the photo to look exactly, I hate that shit. I think it's terrible. I think it is stupid. I think it's just bad business. But end of the day, it's the brand's money. If they want to say, hey, meet us at Montauk Sunday at 6 p.m. and they want to start a bonfire with $150,000 and that's the way they want to promote their launch, that's their right. It's their money. It's then the responsibility of the influencer to either push back on a bad brief or walk away. Stat that was on our Instagram recently was 34% of influencers accept over half of the deals that are sent their way. That sounds about right to me. And I think that anytime an influencer turns down a deal, not because they didn't think they were getting paid enough, but because they don't think it's a good match for them, their clout for me goes up a level. respect them that much more. I'm that much more willing to push the team to work with them. And that's not to say, don't say, okay, my new strategy is I'm going to just like say no to all these 4 campaigns. But when you believe in something, and if something doesn't align with your beliefs, no matter how much money it is, it's okay to just walk away. And so it is your job to stay relatable, real, and relevant. It's the brand's job to allow you to advertise for them while doing those things. But nobody is forcing you to take this money. No one's forcing you to take the deals. And if you're walking into a deal and it kind of stinks and you feel like this is not going to be good, as I've said before, if you're, at least a week or 2 out, respectfully bowing out, I think is better than doing a half-assed job. It was actually just real quick story, and then we're going to end this episode. I was on a trip once with an influencer, and they were like, they had this brand deal that they were supposed to do when they got back, but they were going to be really tired. They were like, get back in the morning from this trip, and that afternoon we're going to have to leave and go somewhere else. And they were really dreading it, and it was like 4 or 5 days out. And I was like, just email them and say like, I'm so sorry. I overestimated the amount of energy I was going to have. I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can bring the energy that I know you guys are expecting and that I expect of myself to this deal. And so I really respectfully have to bow out of it. Please let me know if I can help you find anyone else. I can make intros if there's any influencers that I'm friends with that you think would be great. Really sorry again. Let me know if you want to jump on a call. That is always going to be okay. You can do that. Now, ghosting a brand and just deciding not to post about them and then never fucking emailing them, I'd do a whole episode on that. That is not okay. But being respectful and bowing out early enough to allow the brand to fill your spot is okay. So, look, that's probably a long episode, and, well, I got nothing else to say. I'm out.